minutes from 9/25 of 24. Any discussion, edits? May I have a motion and a second?
I move to approve the minutes from September 25th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, so we discussed 2 edits on the employee handbook on that day for donating PTO vacation hours for those that are on FMLA. That did go to the board as we approved it, and the board said in light of the absence of Kathy and Adam, they wanted us to re-review it.
So there was one item that went to the board out of 3 that needed a, described as a primary review by this body. That's on page 18 of your packet. The others the board approved. And that was, as I gave a second read to the materials. This goes back to your questions via email. You know, is it policy of the board to reconsider items or have a committee reconsider items after they've already been vetted? The answer is no. It is not the policy. So once an item's been through committee, it should, unless new information comes to light or there's something else that wasn't deliberated upon, like the committee's time is valuable and we don't need to rerun items. However, what is on page 18 was not run past committee and went to the board for a first time. I attempted to insert that as what I saw as a general cleanup of recodification, and the board said, well, hey, did the committee get a look at this? The answer was, well, no. So this is the part that's back here. So the question that came up was via Chief Rosina, who said, hey, we've got employees within the fire department side of our operation who, we've gone out and recruited, and we feel like they should be eligible for WRS. The first draft of this stipulated each full-time employee is automatically entered into WRS. That's consistent with the WRS manual. The question that becomes, interpretation of the manual as it's written with regard to the word expectation. Do we have an expectation that the employee is going to contribute X many hours per year? And this particular portion is coming back in front of you really from a context of the volunteer firefighters. So effectively what I'm asking for is the authority to make that decision. Yes, it's there, and that is backed up and validated via the budget policy. If you look inside of our budget policy document, every single volunteer firefighter that's in there has got WRS qualifying contributions budgeted for. That really has to do with a legacy from Chief Mueller, Chief Narian, and Chief Haifman in terms of employees inadvertently triggering more than 600 hours a year of qualifying time to be enrolled in WRS. Or if they're enrolled in another agency as a full-time employee or qualifying employee, WRS says we have to enroll them also. So that's the incongruency for the open session item.
So those are the highlighted areas on page 18 of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
packet. Any questions on that? So it's qualifying employee, not full-time or part-time,
Right.
or paid on call. It's just
Right.
qualifying. What's a qualifier?
So WRS gives a whole host of qualifiers. The first one would be an employee that is employed by another agency. So they are a full-time qualifying employee or a part-time qualifying employee for another agency. WRS says that we have to enroll them as a WRS participating member. So that's category number 1. There may be others that would qualify due to hours of service in a year, and then we would have them enrolled in WRS appropriately.
Did I hear you right, that it was qualified at another place?
Yes. So if they
Okay.
are,
If I work at
let's say you work
Michigan
for
Fire Department,
Michigan, no. Michigan is a Chapter 213 organized entity that is separate from WRS as far as I'm aware.
but
Let's
somebody
say
in
City,
WRS.
let's say City of Racine,
Okay.
right? WRS participating member,
Okay.
and they decide to come out and work for us part time. Our read on the manual says yes, you have to enroll them because they are already a qualifying member somewhere else. Those wages are subject to WRS contributions.
Okay.
So this change just says that we're gonna follow with WRS, their
Yes.
guidelines. We
So-
weren't with the full-time, we are by changing it to
Yes.
qualifying.
There is a piece in here that says up to the determination of the employer, right? You know, well, what does that mean and how do we handle that? And that, the way I've written this is I'm asking for authority to make that decision. Well, where will I find the funds to make that decision? The answer is we'll have had to gone through the finance committee and village board for those funds to be appropriated via the budget process. Does that make sense? In other words, there's a financial check on Zeke just going, hey, everybody's enrolled for every reason, for everything, right? Like, no, that's not what I'm asking for. I'm saying there's a financial component that applies to that.
Makes sense.
Any further discussion or questions? I noticed at the bottom of page 20, you want them highlighted and then erased, or
Yeah, that's
stipend-based volunteers are ineligible for
that's the
leave
other
or other
correction that goes
infringement.
along with this.
Okay, so
Under,
can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I'm gonna be limited based on previous agreement on what I can say there. I think this is a change that needs to happen. I'm unable, due to legal reasons, to provide historical context as to why we need that change.
Okay.
Okay.
Has legal reviewed any of this?
No,
Is that necessary?
no. This is
Maybe Matt, not Todd?
if you all wanted to kick it somewhere, they'll give it a policy like federal law and state law review. There's nothing here that's inconsistent with federal or state law.
All right, I guess at this time, I'll ask if there's any motions to approve the changes that were just discussed regarding the updates.
I make a motion to approve, how do we wanna say, what, the qualifying, from full-time to qualifying employee. Is that good enough?
Yes, ma'am.
A second.
As presented there.
As presented.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
Do
we are
we
now.
have to address what's on page 20?
Yes, ma'am, that should go along with it.
Oh, so we should do that as a separate motion?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, going on to page 20, the update there. Is there a motion for the change? A volunteer that receives a nominal amount for volunteering?
So would the motion be to strike?
Strike.
Yeah, I make that motion.
And second.
Any further comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything else from the administrator?
No, ma'am, I do have one item in closed session.
Okay, then I am going to go ahead and request a motion to go into closed session to consider a motion to convene into executive session pursuant to the Wisconsin State Statute, section 19.85 IF, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personal problems, or the investigation of charges against a specific person, except where Par B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or those involved in such problems or investigation. Is there a motion for closed session?
I'm going to go into closed session.
And a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want that as a roll call?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Paul, no, aye?
Bell, I.
Aye.
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 All right, thank you for joining